Orange County Registered Digital.
Hello and welcome to the OCVarsity Gridiron Show. This is our second round playoff preview from Villa Park. I'm your host, Jonathan Khamis, being joined by Dan Albano and Steve Fryer. Another week in the books, guys. We're here in the second round where only the strong survive. We're down to just 3 teams in the Trinity League in the Pac-5, and that's only 2 Orange County teams left with Mater Dei and JSerra. We'll talk about the Monarchs first because Mater Dei has a rematch against Centennial. Centennial, one of the best teams perennially in all of California, guys. And their first game, Mater Dei beat the Huskies 38-18. That was the first game of the year in week 0. Dan, this could be our game of the week. Mater Dei, can they do it again?
Definitely they can. You know, that JSerra mock game's really good. And there's a ton of great games this week. It's hard to pick one. But, you know, I was at the first time they played down the Mission Viejo Kickoff Classic, and that was a Mater Dei really ran the ball tremendously well. Their defense was outstanding, and they were extremely sharp. Mater Dei looked in mid-season form right in that first game, and Centennial wasn't quite there. And now we saw the points that Centennial scored last week, 68-64. Somebody wrote, you know, a basketball game broke out in that football game. So Mater Dei defense coming off a great effort against Westlake. I think they can get it done again.
All right, Centennial, though, is riding high, Steve. They have an 8-game win streak, and their only other loss was to Bishop Gorman, who's, you know, all-world. Steve, do you agree with Dan? Can Mater Dei beat Centennial again?
Yeah, it's about defense with the Monarchs. You know, that's what's been winning games for them throughout the Trinity League. I think they're only giving up about 15 points a game. Sounds like a lot, but when we consider the competition they play in the Trinity League with all those high-powered offenses, that's pretty good.
JSerra hosts Bishop Amat, and Edward Vander's picking the right time to peak right now, guys. He had 3 touchdowns last week, but Bishop Amat losing actually to Santa Margarita, so they have a little bit of Trinity League history in their first week, first game of the year, but it's a little bit different now here in November, Dan.
Yeah, I think both these teams are definitely gotten a lot better since that season opener for Amat losing. You know, in Bishop Amat's their other loss, they lost in the Mission League to Crespi, who's playing really well, and that game was a 1-point game in overtime, 32-31 victory for Crespi over Bishop Amat, and Bishop Amat also lost to Chino. And then you got this one loss, JSerra team only losses to Bosco, and I think they're very comfortable at Saddleback College, and I was really impressed with JSerra, first time in the playoffs. Looked very composed, a nice first-round victory. I think everything is all systems go for the Lions right now.
You know, Steve, that's something you talked about here on this show. JSerra, first time in the playoffs. What are they going to do? And I'm sure they impressed you last week.
Well, what they did was scored 55 points in their first playoff game in the school's history. And, you know, Dan, like what you were talking about, it had to be a concern for us and Coach Hardigan and everybody around the program is, you know, how are they going to do in the playoffs? It's sort of a new world. But that team has big game experience. I mean, you beat Mater Dei at Santa Ana Bowl. You've got big game experience. So, you know, so far so good for JSerra. And I see no reason why that train's going to stop here in the second round.
All right, guys, we transition now to the West Valley division where it will be Tesoro and Vista Murrieta. Guys, if you don't know much about Vista Murrieta, listen to this. They've won 30 straight league games, 6 straight Southwestern League championships. But Tesoro playing real well, especially Anthony Batista with 4 touchdowns last week, Dan.
Yeah, when he can run like that, that's huge because it opens up Devon Motster, and makes that, this gives him that other dimension because, Devon is such a good runner. And then when you combine that with Batista and, then if you're in Tesoro, then you have to decide, well, we do have some good receivers too. You just got a lot of offense there. You got 2 great running backs potentially there and then receivers. So, they got a lot going on with Tesoro's offense right now.
Another South Orange County team in the playoffs, that is El Toro. They're hitting the road to take on Great Oak. Trey Tinsley had a great game last week. He actually threw 3 touchdowns to 3 different receivers. You were talking about Tesoro with a lot of weapons. The Chargers aren't bad themselves. El
Toro's a scary team. When they are playing so well on offense and they are keeping the ball and they can run their system so well with Trey Tinsley, tons of receivers. Our defensive player of the week was Joseph Sanchez. 15 total tackles against Los Al, their linebacker. He's their leading tackler for El Toro, but then they forced 5 turnovers. I think El Toro's a scary team. They got to go on the road again. They were at Vets. They got to go on the road again. But I mean, they are a scary team. That South Coast League is looking awful tough, boys, right now.
Yeah, we all know El Toro's secret weapon, right? It's that jersey, as we learned on the OCVarsity Offside show. Steve, Great Oak. Who did they finish second in League Two? Vista Murrieta, 4-1. They're no joke.
Well, it's like I was talking about the Inland Empire. You're talking about texting Coach Frith. I was texting him too, telling him hey, what are you doing? I picked Los Al to win the whole West Valley division and knock them out in the first round. Thanks a lot, Chargers. Appreciate that a lot. But with that offense that they've got going, it's a lot of bubble screens here and there, and quick, and they're so quick, and no huddle stuff like that. Just going to drive defenses crazy. I'll tell you what, those Great Oak guys better be ready because, they play like with their hairs on fire over there at El Toro.
I like that you guys text coaches Friday night. You know what I was doing Friday night? My 6-month-old was screaming in this ear and screaming in this ear.
All right.
Yeah, didn't get much sleep that night.
Not much texting going on there, man.
No, not much. Our thanks to Dan Albano and Steve Fryer, and make sure to check out the OCVarsity Gridiron Extra, where we will preview the Southern and Southwest Division. I'm your host, Jonathan Khamis, and thanks for watching.
Orange County Register. We are here in the service of Orange County.